Chapter 1. The Birth of Apollo. Long, long ago, when the world was young, gods sometimes came down and walked upon the earth. At least that's what the people said in the faraway land of Greece. They told many stories about their gods and about the things they did on earth among men. Most of the gods lived on the mountain top, forever hidden by clouds. But one god lived in a house of golden light low on the eastern sky, below the edge of the world. His name was Apollo, and he was one of the most beautiful of all the gods. He was also one of the most powerful. Only the king of the gods, great Zeus, his father, was more powerful than he. Now, the birth of Apollo came about in this way. His mother was a beautiful Titan named Leto. Because she was a Titan, she was immortal like the gods themselves and could not die, and Zeus loved her. But the queen of the gods was jealous. She drove Leto away from God's mountaintop and made her wander over the earth, an outcast. Homeless and unwanted, Leto came at last to a small rocky island. There she was made welcome, and there twins were born, a boy and a girl, children of the great god Zeus. Leto named them Apollo and Artemis. From the first, the children were strong, swift of foot, and more beautiful than any children in all the world of gods or men. To each of them, Leto gave a bow and arrows, golden ones for the boy, silver ones for the girl, and she taught them skill in hunting. No god had greater skill. No animal could run too fast for their little arrows, no bird could fly too high, and always the girl's aim was as true as her brother's. Leto taught the children about the gods too. In the beginning she told them there was the earth and heaven, and earth and heaven had many children. First came 12 Titans, strong and beautiful. Heaven and earth were proud of them. But after the Titans became terrible creatures, giants and one-eyed cyclopses. Heaven, their father, wished that they had never been born. 3 of the giants were monsters with 50 heads and 100 arms. Heaven was afraid of them, so he put them down under the earth and piled a great mountain on top of them. The cyclopses were ugly things with one round eye in the middle of their foreheads. Heaven hid them inside the mountain, because he did not like to look on them. There in the mountains they worked at great fires, and they were made lightning and thunderbolts. Apollo and Artemis loved to hear all about the beings, but best of all, they loved to hear of the Titans, and Leto loved to tell them about them. She told the children of her father, who was a Titan. She told them also of their father's father, who was the king of the Titans. His name was Cronus, and he was the most powerful of all the Titans. He was so powerful, he even overcame his father, Heaven, and drove him far away from Earth. In a later time, Cronus himself had children, who made war on him. They were the great gods, and Zeus was their leader. But the Titans did not want Zeus to be their king, so they helped Cronus in his fight against his children. For 10 long years there was a war between the Titans and the children of Cronus. Finally, Zeus went down into the earth and let loose the giants. He brought them into the light to fight beside him. Then he opened the top of the mountain where the Cyclopses were shut. He let out the smoke that burned their eyes and gave them a sight of the sky, so the Cyclops gave him their mighty thunderbolts. Then Zeus took his stand on his mountain top, with his brothers and sisters around him. From there he hurled the thunderbolts at the Titans, and the giants took up great rocks to throw. 100 rocks at a time the giants threw with their 100 arms. Even whole hills they lifted up to hurl against the Titans. Thunder crashed, lightning flashed across the sky, mountains rocked, winds roared, and the cool green sea began to boil. Zeus hurled his thunderbolts until the sky was full of fire and the whole world shook. Mountains fell into the valleys. The wide seas rose up in great waves and washed over the land, and the noise and roaring shook the very sky. It was as if the sea and earth and sky all crashed together as God fought God. In the end, the mighty Titans fell. The children of Cronus drove them deep down under the earth, far deeper than the giants had been. Then, in the dark and the mist, Zeus chained them to the roots of the mountains. But not Cronus, no, for Cronus fled to a land across the sea. There, people changed his name to Saturn, and there they did honor him as the father of the gods. Then Leto told her children about how the sons of Cronus divided the world among themselves. One son became god of the sea, one became god of the underworld, and one, the strongest of them, became god of the heavens. That god was great Zeus, their father. All this Leto taught them on their rocky island. When Apollo and Artemis were grown, Zeus came down to the earth to see them. He gave them gifts. To young Apollo, he gave a chariot made of bright gold and pulled by 4 fiery horses. Because he was proud of him, he made Apollo god of the sun and gave him powers of healing. He gave Artemis a silver chariot and made her goddess of the moon. From that time, Apollo was the ruler of the daytime sky. He warmed the earth and gave it light, and men honored him. Every day Apollo drove his shining chariot across the sky. Oh, how bright it shone! Yet the young god himself, standing in the chariot, shone brightest of all. Men looked up from the earth far below, and their eyes were dazzled. God, chariot, and horses all seemed to be one shining, fiery ball. Each morning men saw the god come up from his home in the east. They saw him climb high, high in the sky at noon, and they saw him go down into the west at night. So golden Apollo, the son of Zeus, took his place among the gods.